everyone. Welcome to Sam's Summaries. This episode is a deep dive discussion into Sam Fury's summary of the book The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. It has been created with the help of AI. You can read the original summary at samfury.com.
All right, everybody. Today, we're cracking open Charles Duhigg's The Power of Habit.
Oh, yeah. This one's a classic, and for good reason, I think.
Right. It's like the holy grail of understanding why we do what we do, and maybe more importantly, how to change what we do.
Exactly. You know, we all have those habits we wish we could break or those new ones we're trying to build.
And Duhigg gives us the tools to actually do that. He starts by laying out this concept of the habit loop, which is kind of like the foundation of the whole book, right?
Yeah, it's like the blueprint for every habit. It's broken down into 3 parts.
Okay, let's hear it.
So you've got the cue, which is basically the trigger that sets the whole thing in motion, like a certain time of day or particular feeling.
Okay, so like, I don't know, that 3 p.m. energy slump that makes you crave a sugary snack.
Exactly. Then you have the routine, which is the actual behavior itself, like reaching for that cookie.
And then comes the reward, the good stuff that makes the habit stick.
Right. In that case, it would be that quick burst of energy or maybe just the satisfaction of that sweet taste.
So cue, routine, reward. It's like a little feedback loop in our brains.
And once you understand this loop, you can start to hack it to change your habits.
And speaking of hacking, Duhigg talked about this really interesting example with Pepsodent toothpaste. You know, back in the day, people weren't really into brushing their teeth.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly a daily ritual for most folks.
So Pepsodent figured out a way to make it one. They added ingredients that created that tingling sensation and marketed it as a sign of cleanliness.
They basically engineered a craving for that feeling.
People started associating that tingle with clean teeth, and suddenly everyone was brushing. It's kind of wild to think about.
It really shows how powerful understanding the reward system can be.
Right.
If we can figure out what we truly crave, we can use that to build better habits.
Okay, so let's say we've identified our habit loop. We know the cue, the routine, and the reward. Now, how do we actually change it?
Well, Duhigg gives us the golden rule of habit change.
Hit me with it.
It's actually pretty simple. Keep the cue and the reward, but change the routine.
So using our afternoon slump example, instead of reaching for the cookie, which is the routine, you could swap it with a quick walk. Still get that energy boost, but in a healthier way.
You got it. But there's another piece to this puzzle that Duhigg really emphasizes, and that's belief. You have to believe that you can actually change.
Like that little voice in your head that says, yeah, I can do this.
And having a supportive environment really helps too. Surrounding yourself with people who cheer you on makes a huge difference.
It's like having your own personal habit change cheer squad.
Exactly. And sometimes it's not just about changing one little habit, but about creating a whole cascade of positive change.
Right, like how one good habit can lead to another and another.
And that's where Duhigg introduces this concept of keystone habits, which are basically these small changes that have a ripple effect on other areas of your life.
He tells this incredible story about Paul O'Neill, who was the CEO of Alcoa.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one. When O'Neill took over, the company was struggling and everyone expected him to focus on boosting profits, but he did something totally unexpected.
What did he do?
He made workers' safety his top priority, his keystone habit.
That seems a little counterintuitive, wouldn't you think?
Maybe, but it was brilliant. To improve safety, he had to improve communication, empower employees, and instill accountability.
So it wasn't just about safety, it was about changing the whole company culture.
Exactly. And those changes rippled outward, improving productivity, quality, and even morale. Alcoa went from lagging behind to leading the pack, all because of one keystone habit.
So how do we find our own keystone habit, that one change that could unlock a whole bunch of positive changes in our life?
It takes some real soul searching, but I think the key is to ask yourself, what's that one area that if I improved would have a positive impact on everything else?
It's like finding that first domino that sets off the chain reaction.
Exactly. And once you've identified your keystone habit, you need the willpower to make it stick.
And we all know how tough that can be. So how do we boost our willpower?
Well, Duhigg compares willpower to a muscle that gets stronger with practice. And he talks about the importance of routines, especially when it comes to dealing with stress.
Routines, like having a set schedule.
More like having pre-programmed responses for certain situations so you don't have to waste mental energy making decisions in the heat of the moment.
Oh, I see. So like instead of debating whether to hit the snooze button, you just automatically get up at the same time every day.
Exactly. The more small routines you build into your day, the more willpower you have left over for the bigger challenges.
So things like meal prepping or setting aside specific time for focused work can actually make us more resilient when faced with temptation or stress.
Absolutely. It's fascinating how those seemingly insignificant actions can empower us to make better choices in more challenging situations.
It's like we're training our brains to resist those bad habits.
Exactly. And it's not just about individual change. Duhigg also talks about how these principles apply to social movements.
Like how entire groups of people can change their habits together.
He uses the Montgomery bus boycott as an example, showing how it wasn't just fueled by shared outrage, but by the creation of new habits and a sense of shared identity.
So it wasn't just about boycotting the buses. It was about creating a new way of life.
Duhigg talks about the power of strong ties, those close-knit relationships that spark the initial movement, and weak ties, those broader community connections that sustain it. During the boycott, the carpooling system became a new habit, reinforcing their shared identity and commitment.
Wow. So even though they were facing a ton of adversity, they were also building something new together.
Exactly. And that's a powerful reminder that change is possible even on a large scale.
So if we understand these principles, could we apply them to create change in our own communities?
Absolutely. Whether it's advocating for a cause, building a supportive network, or just encouraging healthier habits in our circles, understanding the power of collective action can be truly empowering.
It's like we all have the potential to be change makers in our own way.
Exactly. And I think one of the most empowering messages of the power of habit is that we're not slaves to our habits. We have the ability to change them.
So even though these habit loops can feel automatic, we still have the power to break them.
Duhigg reminds us that with effort and a plan, we can reshape our habits to create a better life for ourselves and for others.
So if there's one thing our listeners take away from this deep dive, what should it be?
Awareness is key. Once you understand the habit loop, your cues, routines, and rewards, you can start to rewire those automatic responses.
Great advice. What about you? Is there anything in the book that really stood out to you?
The realization that so much of our behavior is driven by these unconscious habit loops was kind of mind-blowing. We often think we're making conscious choices, but many of our actions are just pre-programmed responses.
It makes you wonder, what habits are we running on autopilot right now? And how can we take control and shape them to align with our goals? I want to leave our listeners with a little challenge. Think back to that habit you want to change. Now ask yourself, what reward are you truly seeking with that habit? Can you identify a different, healthier routine that delivers a similar reward?
That's a great question to ponder. I think it's the starting point for real change.
I agree. And if you want to go deeper, we highly recommend checking out The Power of Habit. It's a fascinating exploration of how we can harness the power of habit to transform our lives.
It's definitely worth a read.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. We hope you walk away with some actionable insights and a renewed sense of agency over your habits. See you next time.
See ya.
Thanks for tuning in to Sam's Summaries. If you found this episode useful, let us know with a like, follow, and share. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to visit samfury.com to get free access to all of Sam's original summaries. You can also get any of Sam's books and other exclusive content. It's all completely free at samfury.com.